Canada can only play one way. They can't manage a game. They can't understand it. And obviously, Grella knows the manager better, and he obviously spoke to that. But very much going for the kill all the time, and didn't really learn much from them today. No Alphonso Davies again, didn't get any minutes because I think the manager's mind was, oh, let's win this game, let's finish top. Yeah, strange one all the way around. But this is an average group. This group, no one from this group is going like real deep runs. So. Yeah, nice storylines, that's what I'll say.
How frustrated do you think Jesse Marsch will be, though, with that second half from Canada, Grell, to lose the top spot in the group and now to have to go to an alternate path? Because, as we mentioned, now they've got to go to LA. Had they won the group, they would have stayed in Canada, which feels like a big bonus for them.
The biggest thing for me, if I'm Jesse, I'm not happy with the way the team played, right? The result is one thing. Result aside, right? Like, people that maybe don't like watch football all the time, they think of the result and they make their whole conclusion based on the result. But when you look at that game, Jesse will be upset that the team didn't look like the team that he wanted to look like. Like Switzerland, he probably said, I'm going to put Switzerland in a really tough game. Switzerland were not in a tough game today. And they played on home soil. Sorry, Jen. And then they played on home soil, and they conceded goals because the pressure was not there. The spacing was not there. The things they want to do is not there. And to Troy's point, they didn't manage the game. So I think he'll be very upset.
Well, I think from a manager as well who prides himself on intensity of his teams, the lapse in judgment coming out into the second half was so poor. It almost caught us off guard how quickly Switzerland scored. Then they get a second, and then all of a sudden Switzerland are quite happy to sit a bit deeper, and it's harder to grow into a game in that sense. So I think from a managerial perspective, you'll be disappointed. You know, you talked about his team talks and how massive they are, so then see his team start the second half like that, I think that would be a big disappointment.
It's such a good point. You said, Grell, even he made you want to run through a wall for him. Maybe at half-time, that's the biggest frustration for him, right? That they came out and were so lackadaisical for those first few minutes.
There was a lack of intensity, like Jen says, and then to go to Troy's point, there was a lack of game management, I think, as well. Because normally when you see them press, and we're going to show it a little bit later, they want, if you split the field in 4 quadrants, they want their team in 1 quadrant. Because that makes it where the ball is, obviously, in the strong side. That makes it so difficult for the opponent. They didn't do that today. They played sort of, kind of wanted to press, kind of didn't want to press. That's where the goals came from as well. So from a management perspective, I think it looked that way because they 0-0, you know, we're top of the group. If we don't concede, kind of let's just float around and see what happens. Not, you know, decisive in what they wanted to do and how they wanted to do it. And then also the lack of intensity in terms of when they did have to close down, once they did go into the line of pressure, when they did have to close down, when they did have to shift, when they do have to win the first ball, the second ball, they didn't do that either. So that's why I think Jesse they'll qualify, so he'll be happy for that because it's more history for them. But also, it's not. I don't think that's what he envisioned the game what he envisioned Canada to look like under him.
And also the other part to that is, again, naturally as a striker, you look at it, Jen, you would look at defending, that's where your eyes go. Both centre forwards, their lack of intensity with the pressure will be what Jesse Marsch will be really disappointed with, because they were waiting, and you do have to wait sometimes and pick your moments, but there's a trigger, there's always a trigger. Whether it goes to the right back, whether it goes from the right back to the centre back, there's one thing they would have worked on, and you should see a definitive bang, that's what they worked on. For a whole game, you're like, I don't know, they were just waiting, they were waiting. And then all the changes came in, and that's a positive he'll take from it, that the changes came in. By the way, what a goal they scored. The goal was an unbelievable goal. Ball over the top, wonderfully brought down from Buchanan, hits it on the half volley across, and Promise Davis with a flying volley into the back of the net. And you're like, whoa, okay, maybe we're going to see a little bit more. And it went straight back into the same pattern. And while you're disappointed, they've got a squad, they're through. I think the positives will outweigh it. But when you have a game like this, you want to come out of it, either you've got so much from it from the squad players are in, the injured players are now starting to get back fit. Don't matter about the result because we lost. But when you play your strongest team and you're going out to win and then you lose and have a poor performance, this next week just becomes, what if? And it becomes a bit of a sour note around the whole place, doesn't it?
On the other hand, I suppose all the negatives that we're saying for Canada, here's just a reminder of the standings, because Switzerland are at the top now of the group, and that forges a path forward that on paper, Jen, is a lot more favourable, and they played really well in the second half, exploiting these mistakes from Canada.
They did. I said it earlier, I think they came out into the second half and the intensity caught Canada off guard. I think they knew they could hit them in behind and went forward in their transitions really, really well. Caught Canada off guard really defensively. They looked out of shape and they attacked this where the space was and were smart with it, and then were much more comfortable getting a couple of goals, you know, before 60 minutes. That's any team's dream. 2-0's always a difficult scoreline to defend, and obviously Canada got a goal back, but I thought they defended pretty well to just see the game out and to finish in a top situation. Obviously, Troy said it's not the most competitive group, but still top of the group. They'll be really, really pleased with it.
Yeah, not the most competitive group. How far can you see Switzerland going, Grell? Or at this point, once you've made it through the group, does it all depend on how the path looks and who you're going to come up against?
Switzerland is another team that rolled Italy in the last Euro, if I'm not mistaken. It feels to me that every year, at least for the last 10 years, they look like they take a step forward in the right direction. They start having players in really big teams in really big moments, and Doy is one of them as well. By the way, they had a lot of their top players on the bench today.
Yeah.
I think that's important to know too. So those guys will be playing. They'll get better. They're organized. They're comfortable on the ball.
I don't know about that, you know. Sorry, just to interrupt you, because Ndoye's been great between the boxes, but not in the final third.
Yeah, but that's his MO though.
Yeah, but the two guys who come in both scored today. So while he is clearly their best winger, if you're not scoring, not producing,
And they were clinical.
exactly. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you.
No. It's good. It's a good point. But Ndoye's always been that guy. He's always been the guy that's like, wow, if he could just score 10 goals, he would be like $100 million player. But he doesn't. So, but anyway, back to Switzerland. I think very good team that has a lot of good tools. If they can be more clinical in both boxes, and if they can maybe play, like I said earlier, at a higher tempo, then because they made Canada look very average today in Canada, and I think Canada are better than people think. So, good job today.
As currently constructed, they will play Belgium. Well, who would you fancy in that game?
That's an interesting matchup, isn't it?
It is, because normally, again, on paper, you'd say Belgium got better players, but we haven't seen them
Based on
wake
what
up
we've seen,
yeah. So if you're Switzerland, you go, okay, it's good that we finished top.
I think Switzerland would have expected, I know you'll talk about the press more, but they would have expected Canada to come at them a lot more than what they did. And I think the shift in the second half, I think the conversations must have been, we can get on the ball here. We're getting way more time and space than we expected to. And so they came out absolutely flying and fully deserved to have won that game and be sitting top.
Yeah, when the manager says, calm down, you've got more time than you think. He was like, oh.
You do, but that's a message where you know what, I probably do, I'm just not aware of it. I didn't think I would.
Because everything, and just to put that into perspective for people that are watching and listening, when you do all of your prep 2 days before the game, the meeting before the game, it's about how well these guys press, how well. So in the back of your mind, it's like, whoa, I've got to be quick now because they're going to be coming. And then it gets to half time and you're like, actually, manager says calm down, shows you a couple of clips, you're like, oh, then you just settle. And I think that's to Jen's point as to why they started the second half so much more, confident and front-footed. Like, okay, no problem. They're not doing that today. They're having a bit of an off day. We can show our quality. And they were good. Switzerland were good. Could have scored 5 or 6 today.
So true. Such a good point, Grell. What about tactically? You've pulled out the old whiteboard to show us some things now.
Yeah, we're going to take a look at it, or at least try to. We're going to take a look at what Jesse, like sort of what he's known for and what they're really good at, and then what they did today, which is what we're talking about when they tried to manage the game, how it looked a little bit different than what we have expected and what probably Switzerland would have expected. So for this example, only Switzerland will be in the red, Canada will be in the blue. I didn't know who to put in the red, so that's how it's going to work for now. So we'll talk about 2 things that are important. This field gets split, let's say, down the middle. I know it's a little bit squiggly line, but use your imagination. Down the middle here, right? So when Jesse's teams press, he wants to get them all on one side of the field, and then you could also, even make it like 4 boxes. He wants all his team in one of the boxes, right? And that can make it very difficult, as you would imagine, if you're in possession. The other thing is the line of pressure, right? There's so many different ways, like Troy talks about what the trigger is. Is the line of pressure here? Is the line of pressure here? Is the line of pressure here, right? In a low block, some of the teams we've seen, they pick up their block here. So this is also very important. Now that I made a mess, let me just delete this. And so we're going to look at what Switzerland thought they were going to get of this Jesse Marsch side, right? So what happens is Switzerland will open, right? They'll play 4-3-3. Here you go. Hopefully I'm not blocking you. And Jesse's team was in a 4-4-2. So here we go. This is what it looked like. Now, once the ball comes from the goalkeeper, comes out here, what normally you would see under Jesse is you would see the line of pressure very high. you would see striker would come here, man mark here. These guys would come down to get the ball, man marked, coming inside. Again, this guy, the weak-sided midfielder here, he doesn't hang out here. He comes inside because they're trying to get everybody in this quadrant of the field. Now, the key is, and I know there's a lot of magnets on there, the key is the left midfielder, okay, which is what I played under Jesse. The left midfielder doesn't man mark here. The left midfielder actually goes and close down the center back as well. So now this center back's panic stations because he's got two guys. The only place he can go back to the goalkeeper, right? Man marked here, 2v1 here, man marked. And you're going to see as this slides, this part of the field is going to be open. So once the midfielder, I'm starting here, I'm going here. Now, obviously, the out is here, right? So now what Jesse's teams do is they ask the fullback to go long distances and take this gamble. So you're like, wait, what's going on? There's 3v3 at the back. Jesse doesn't care because he's willing to take that gamble. And these guys have to shift so hard over that, as you can see, all the blue magnets now are in this quadrant of the field. And that's what he's so good at, and that's why teams feel like they can't breathe against the press. I think you see this a little bit with the U.S. men's national team as well, and they leave these guys open, and they say, don't worry about them, right? If it breaks down, obviously this is possible. Now, high line of interception, everyone in one quadrant, right? The things we thought we would see. Now I'm going to show you what we did see really quickly without trying to confuse you too much. We're going to see 4-4-2, right, from Jesse. And we're going to see Switzerland in their 4-3-3, okay? Between the center backs, okay? So now the line of confrontation, was not here. The line started here because he tried to manage the game, because he tried to manage the moments. And what would happen is he would come up with the ball here, right? Okay, Switzerland's in red, just so you know. Canada is in blue. So we thought Canada would be here and in one quadrant. This is instead what we saw. We saw the two strikers, to Troy's point, not doing much, kind of jogging, kind of going. You never saw a change of pace from them. And he was left 1v1. He's kind of making sure they don't come back the other side. And these guys would go tuck in like this, right? So on the strong side, you leave him a little bit more space. They're okay with that. And what happened was, instead of this left midfielder, who I used to be here, going to close him down and being risky, his job was just to worry about the fullback, right? And some of the numbers in the midfield. So he would stay compact. This line would stay compact. But the problem was, and it happened on the first goal, go back and watch it, as he gets out here and gets under a little bit of pressure, this ball, one simple pass, was beating two lines of pressure. It would beat in the front line and this line because they were not doing anything. They were not pressing, and they were not in a low block. They were just sort of in this mid block, and there was a lot of spaces between them. Now what happened was, once this guy gets turned, these guys no longer know what to do. And as they start to shift here and runners start to come from the midfield and they get overloaded, one ball can beat them. And this is not, see now, as opposed to the last one, and maybe we can show two different pictures, they're not in one quadrant and they're not starting to press high up the field. So once they're spread like this and you find space between this line, all of a sudden Canada and Jesse Marsch's system becomes very average. And I think that's what we saw throughout the 90 minutes, was that it was a pretty average performance, average press. It was not what we advertised it to be, that they were going to be in a difficult game, because Jesse tried to manage it, and I don't know if that's his strength. I don't think it's his strength.
That was a really interesting breakdown. Just by the way, was it one player in particular that the shift wasn't happening for, or do you think collectively it just wasn't working for Canada today?
I think that when they press the ball, the left midfielder or the right midfielder, doesn't matter, they were staying at home. So normally they'll go and close the center back as well, which makes the fullback, your fullback, go fly up the field as well. But because he was staying at home, they were kind of just in this like
no man's land.
No man's land. They're not going, and they were not.
But what that also does is, when to send the extra midfielder, it's meant to speed the person up on the ball.
Correct.
So that when the person on the ball has it, it's like quick, and that's where the mistakes come.